All right, looks like we're up and running, and welcome everybody to Ignite Thursday, where we like to typically meet up. Sorry for the hitting the mic there, but where we like to meet up and essentially talk about ways to improve ourselves, get some discussion going. I know it's the beginning stages of a Discover Ignite Live, so I am trying to build this out, do a little prep work beforehand, so that way so people can filter in here. But ultimately, today our theme is talking about pride and or ego, right? But being said, I want to actually get started and go ahead and throw this out there. If you haven't done so, if you're trying to get on track as far as getting healthy and stuff like that, I am doing virtual races. Just a reminder, if that's something you guys want to do, you can look down in the description below or look in my Instagram profile. Start virtual races. It's completely customizable. Again, I don't get any kind of, I'm not associated or anything like that with the company that I do virtual races with. But being said, I think it's a great way. You can tag me into what you're doing, right, in the virtual races and get 2021 to be the best year ever, right, especially after the last year. Also being said, there is a Ignite Mindset course. If you guys are interested in that, that is also in the same places I did talk about to ignite change in your life, right? And be able to put yourself in the moment so you can make the changes that you want. Being said, I just wanted to go ahead and start out. I want to kind of structure this out a little bit different as well when I start doing these Ignite Thursdays, kind of talk about what you guys have been doing or what I've been doing over the past week. Just to improve yourself, right? Like what exactly have you been doing to improve yourself over the past week? One thing I can say for myself is I've been really ecstatic to be back in the gym. It's been over a year. I have been doing a lot of resistance training and running, being out of the gym because of everything that's been going on. Finally back in the gym, so I've been excited about that. I've been learning to juggle, which is something else. It's kind of random, but I came across this particular article talking about how juggling can help you essentially rewire your left and right brain, essentially train your brain, right? Like you would train your body in the gym, helps you train your mind. So I've been learning how to juggle too, starting with one ball. We're getting there, but nonetheless, it helps, right? So I try to do a bunch of different things that I've learned and be a practitioner of it and see if it works, and then help other people with those particular things. Also, I know for myself, I've been talking about, taking care of yourself a lot. And I've been trying to adjust my schedule to incorporate sleep better and been trying to be a stickler about that. So I've been adjusting times and stuff. Been reading a new book, which is talking about dopamine. So those people on Instagram may know, because I did post about this, just about like, what dopamine is, how it acts in your body and stuff like that, which is actually truly intriguing. If you are interested in that particular book, just let me know. Leave a comment down below if you're on YouTube or on Facebook, and I will let you guys know about that one. But I never thought I would be interested in a book on dopamine, but this particular book is actually really good. Although towards the end, it starts really getting into a bunch of different diseases and stuff, and how dopamine is affected in those particular fashions, which isn't really piquing my interest as much. But in the beginning stages, it talks about how love is affected by dopamine, relationships, and a bunch of other different ways. Like essentially just your body reacts, right, into anything in life that is essentially associated with dopamine. So it's again, really intriguing book. Started that, been reading that this week. So that's really been helping. Again, with the whole schedule thing, I've been doing adjusting everything. So it's been quite interesting, to say the least. But going into this week and talking about pride and ego, right? This is something I was just kind of thinking about. Again, I go into every week trying to think of a theme for the week, and I've tried to incorporate some new things. And I've just, I talk about going into my think tank. And so I really started like thinking about stuff when I do my meditations. And, this idea of the past week kind of just came into my head about pride or ego, right? And when you think about pride or ego, I want to ask you guys, like, what does pride or ego mean to you? Right? Write down in the description below what it means to you, because I would like to know what your interpretation is of it. For myself, right, I could probably, we got a little bit of a delay on YouTube. Hopefully that clears itself up. There we go. But ultimately, when talking about pride and ego, you know, when I think about it, I kind of think of, what's going on, Lily? How you doing? When talking about pride or ego, I think you think about wins and losses, right? Ultimately, because I came up with the scenario when I was in that think tank, right? Like what would cause somebody to allow their ego to essentially overtake and not allow them to make changes in their life, right? Because I think ego can, if you ever heard that book by Ryan Holiday, you know, ego is enemy, right? And I think your ego and your pride can get in the way of better judgments or for you learning something new, right? And then being said, I came across a scenario essentially which this particular person I know of, you know, they are having a problem, right? Like, if you've ever been in that situation where you've never lost, it looks like we're having issues with YouTube tonight, so I do apologize for that. But if you've never lost in your life, right? Are you so driven that you're not going to let down your pride and your ego that, hey, you know, maybe I am in a bad situation and maybe I need to actually get out of that situation, right? And essentially, this is where the wins and losses come in, right? You essentially take that personal as a loss, right? Is that where you're coming from? And when saying that, you know, I think you can kind of get caught in the wins and losses in your life and be prideful for those things that you feel like you're strong in, right? And this is where it can be a detriment, because a lot of times you won't take criticism, right? A lot of times you will end up finding that what ends up happening is that if somebody says something, you take it personal, as opposed to taking constructive. Now there's a difference, right? Because there's constructive criticism and then there's just an opinion where you can give an opinion, but if you don't provide a solution, right, it's really not going to be any kind of if I could talk, it's really not going to be any kind of constructive criticism that will allow me to improve, right? Like, I'm okay with you telling me that something is wrong that I need to improve, but if you're just going to sit there and give me an opinion about it, right, that's not constructive criticism. And so in saying that, if you allow your pride to get in the way, right, you're not going to listen to what the other person is saying. There's no way you can improve. This is why having that pride, having that ego isn't going to help you in the long run, because I've always felt like you have to be extremely flexible in all those things that you do in life. And I think if you want to be prideful in something, you need to be prideful in how you adapt to the environment that you are in. Again, it looks like we're having a lot of delays on YouTube, so we'll work through those, guys. But being said, so again, your pride, you don't want it to get in the way, right? You ultimately want to be able to be as flexible as possible. And when doing that, you have to look at what you're prideful at, right? And I know a lot of times you can be a perfectionist, right? And your pride in being a perfectionist, but that in itself can be, in my mind, it can be really hard and really difficult because of the fact that, you know, it has to be perfect. You're not going to let it go out. You're not going to fail, right? You have to fail more. It also goes into the whole fixed and growth mindset you know, it's not going to be ready to leave, right? If you want to do something in life, you're going to wait for the perfect time. You're going to wait for something else to occur in your life before you actually go ahead and continue to execute, right? Sorry, I just lost train of thought. I'm trying to figure out where I'm at here. But being said, going onto those things to challenge your beliefs, right? Because your beliefs play a big part in your your pride and your ego, right? Like you have stuff that's ingrained in you from your parents, from your environment that ultimately stops you from. Thanks for the heart. I think that's on Facebook. But ultimately understand that some of the beliefs aren't going to suit you, and your ego will battle for those beliefs, right? And so this is why I talk about. So you have to look at your beliefs and challenge them from time to time. Audit yourself from time to time and see if they still suit you, and if they do, this will allow you to remove some of those beliefs and get rid of some of that ego sometimes. Again, because you want to try to be as flexible in your environment, and you find that this can be a true strength in your life. And is one of the biggest things I think has really helped me in my life is being as flexible as possible. That's not saying you still have to have boundaries, right? You still got to hold your frame. You still got to do all these things. But being said, when you're building up to this point, you still want to be flexible. You still want to allow that criticism to come in, right? You still want to always try to improve. Because I think even though, they said you get that 10,000 hours to be able to master anything, but ultimately at 10,000 hours, you still have to understand that there's going to be a lot of failures in there, right? And you want to always try to improve in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes you are not seeing what needs or can be changed unless you get that constructive criticism. And I know even for myself, I always try to seek it. That's not saying that, hey, I know better than you, right? Because sometimes I think you can fall into that trap to where, I've been doing this longer than you, so how would you know, right? But you should still always take stuff with a grain of salt, whether it's really good or really bad, and try to find the pros and cons of it. If you can do that alone, right, that's where you find the true things that you can fix and help get past that pride and get past that ego to allow yourself to make necessary changes to improve yourself. And so again, so you can go back to challenging beliefs and allowing yourself to audit those things, and again, find what fits for you, and to ultimately do this and to make yourself to fix having issues with pride and ego. This is why I push a lot of the different tools and techniques about meditating and doing breathing techniques and doing a lot of these different things, right? Like cold therapy and stuff like that, to put you in the moment, right? And to try to be aware of your thoughts and your ideas. You can stop yourself and correct yourself as it's playing out in that given moment, right? And then the more you practice this, you realize you have more control over the moment. Whereas if you don't practice it as often, right, you may find you drift off into the future, or you're thinking about past events or something like that. That's not going to allow you to make the change and set aside your pride, set aside your ego to make the changes that are needed or necessary, especially if you're trying to align to something specific that you want to make, changes that you want to make in your life. You're going to have to know how to do that, right? By being in the now and learning the tools, techniques that allow you to pull you in, right? When you get too far out there. But being said, what else do I got here? I have, I think pride can also get you into doing things for the wrong reason, right? And that being said, if you have particular things in your life that aren't allowing you to adjust and reconnect to your destination, right? And this is talking about, there may be some kind of changes you want in your life, and you may, again, be too prideful when it goes back to the losses, be too prideful to not make the necessary changes, because again, you fear loss, and you think as changing things in your life will be a loss because you have, again, never felt loss or anything like that in your life. Now, I myself, I've dealt with many different losses, many different failures in my life, so it's easy for me to adjust to that and just be aware of that, And again, allow yourself to have a more growth mindset, right? And be okay with failure. Because again, if you can get comfortable with failure, then you're not dealing with having to have that pride to get in the way. And going back to the being a perfectionist, right? And being okay to mess up, right? Color outside the lines and realize that's going to happen, right? And realize that everything is not black and white, right? There's never been any particular situation where it was just black and white. It's always a gray area, and working around that. And again, if you can be adjustable to that, it allows you to make the necessary changes that you want that, again, align with your destination. But if, again, you're feeling like it's a personal attack and you're taking criticism, you're not, again, going to allow to make necessary changes. But this pride in itself, I think, is something I have personally never had issues in. I've worked on particular things and put a lot of time and effort into specific things, and so I do become prideful in things. And I get to the point to where someone will say something and it'll be hard for me to accept that. And so it's even something that I continuously work on, right? If you put a lot of time and effort into something and you do get the criticism, you have to, again, put yourself in the now and realize, okay, you know what? I realize that I may have made mistakes here. Maybe I don't have the right perspective or a different perspective. And I noticed that even in being in business, right? Like you can't be so prideful that you don't make changes, right? You have to be adjustable. And that's definitely what I've learned about business, is that it's not your opinion, right? It's not essentially what you want. It's ultimately what the marketplace wants, and understanding that you have to set your pride and your ego aside, and in doing so, actually being able to listen, right? I think is the biggest thing. And again, it comes back to a lot of soft skills and adjusting to people, and putting yourself to the side. But again, not allowing people to railroad you, right, at the same time, and having your boundaries and accepting criticism and aligning all those things with your destination. And even though that sounds like a lot, it's slowly incorporating these things into where you can make the change. And again, focusing on if you are accepting of criticism, right, and making those adjustments along the way. But as far as pride and ego goes, I don't know if there's anybody out there who has any questions on pride and ego. Lily, I think you are the only one on here. But that is pretty much what I got for today. We're just talking about pride and ego and those changes that you may be facing with pride and ego. I know also I've been doing I know I've been also looking up minimalist. I've been learning about minimalism as well, and that aligns with a lot of different things. When you start getting into like meditation and everything, can we use our ego in a positive way? You can. In my mind, as far as like using your ego in a positive way, is being prideful in yourself, right? Or having that what is called like the super ego, right? Which is essentially that ultimate person that you want to be, right? And live up to that person, right? If you can do that and develop that person, the ideal self, right? I think you can project that particular person and live up to that. But ultimately, again, I think there's different things. Like I think you have to be mindful of those things that are holding you back. And this is almost like when you are looking at different things in your life. that again, when it goes to like beliefs and when it goes to you feel like you're not making change, making strides in your life, I think it is important to audit those different kinds of things and be able to adjust again on the fly and being flexible and realizing where you're not flexible, right? But ultimately, I think taking pride or using the ego in a positive way, if you can focus on, I think, being able to be adjustable, right? I think if you can take pride in that, right, I think is ultimately what would make it a more positive aspect when it comes to pride and ego. But that's my opinion on it. But as far as like I said, I've been reading up on researching minimalism and stuff, and how it incorporates, and it's kind of interesting to see how it all is kind of meshing together with meditation, having, you know, less is more essentially, right, and not feeling the emptiness. No problem, Lily. Thank you. And having not feeling essentially the voids with other things in your life, like materialistic things, and making sure everything in your life has meaning, right? I think that's anything when you're talking about, you know, mindfulness and being understanding of mindfulness is incorporating things like minimalism and meditation and stuff like that, and realizing that you are everything that you need, and making your life essentially suit that, right? And being okay with sitting with yourself, sitting with your thoughts, sitting with your ideas, which can be very, very scary for a lot of people. And I know for myself, it was that way. But ultimately saying that is something that I want to do a separate show or a separate Ignite Thursday on that when I start doing a little bit more research. I know there's like, again, a lot of different varieties of minimalism, right? And how you approach it. And again, everybody has different viewpoints, perspective on it, like most things, right? But with that being said, I think that is pretty much all I got for today. I got a new podcast coming out on Sunday as well. So look forward to that. I will actually have a video format on that on Sunday. And I also have that will be released audio on Monday at 6 a.m. Sharp Eastern Standard Time. So if nobody's got any other questions, I appreciate you, Lily, for joining me. Looks like that would be the only other person I have on here. So I appreciate you spending your time with me, Lily. And until next time, guys, I will see you guys later.